Samsung smartphone exports from India have dropped nearly 20%, not because of demand, but because the production linked incentive or PLI they were availing has expired. Now, a few months earlier, when the FAME 2 subsidy for electric vehicles ended, EV sales for smaller companies like Hero Electric, Okinawa, and Ampere collapsed. Some went from selling thousands of units a month to just a few hundred or none at all. These are not isolated events. These are symptoms of a deeper problem. India cannot seem to stick to an industrial policy for long enough to it to deliver structural changes. Between 2014 and 2025, India launched and wound down multiple marquee schemes. Make in India, Smart Cities, FAME, PLI. Each came with huge ambition, press conferences, and budget allocations, and each faded before it could achieve scale. FAME 2 ended in March 2024. PLI schemes are being sunset sector by sector by FY26 with no comprehensive replacements launched. But while domestic support is being pulled back, outbound FDI by Indian firms is rising. In FY24 alone, Indian companies have invested over $17 billion abroad, up from $12 billion just 1 year before. Instead of doubling down on India's industrial base, capital is chasing better infrastructure, clearer policy, and higher returns overseas. So the question is, why can't India do what South Korea, Taiwan, and others did? Why do we keep launching industrial policies and walking away from them halfway? Let's try to unpack that. To begin with, India has no institution like South Korea's Economic Planning Board or Japan's MITI, technocratic bodies empowered to design, execute, and iterate long term industrial strategy. In South Korea, the EPB coordinates across ministries and sets 5 year plans that guided not just public investment but also private capital allocation. In Japan, MITI picked strategic sectors like steel, electronics, automotives and supported them through infrastructure, credit and R&D for decades. Taiwan's Industrial Development Bureau and later ITRI, the Industrial Technology Research Institute, seeded semiconductor talent, created early fab incentives and supported the creation of TSMC. Singapore's Economic Development Board functions like a fund manager meets policy architect, identifying global trends and aligning industrial parks, skills, and regulations in response. India, by contrast, runs industrial policy through short lived schemes housed in individual ministries with limited cross cutting authority and constant leadership churn. PLI was spread across 14 ministries. FAME was across two. Land, labor, and electricity fall under the state governments. Now, there is no industrial council across the nation, no empowered agency, and no one accountable if the plan fizzles out. So, the result is fragmentation, inconsistency, and reset after reset. Let's talk about outcomes. India's manufacturing share of GDP has hovered around 16 to 18% for 2 decades. The target was 25% in 2022. We are nowhere close. Manufacturing jobs, which were supposed to increase by 100 million under Make in India, have grown marginally. Many new plants are capital intensive and not labor intensive. Exports tell the same story. India's share of global merchandise exports is just 1.8% compared to China's 14% and Vietnam's 1.5% and South Korea's 2.5%. Keep in mind, Vietnam and South Korea are much smaller countries. Despite PLI for electronics, India still imports over 80% of its semiconductor and display components, limiting true value addition. In sectors like textiles, solar modules, or capital goods, India remains uncompetitive on both cost and scale. Logistics costs in India are averaging around 14% of GDP compared to 8 to 10% in China. Industrial power tariffs in India are among the highest in Asia. Port turnout times are improving, but they are still lagging. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is playing a different game. The US has passed the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act, multi decade industrial programs aimed at EVs, semiconductors, and renewables. China continues to subsidize key industries while building industrial clusters at scale. Vietnam and Indonesia offer seamless plug and play SEZs with 24/7 power, rail links, and custom integration. They have made themselves irresistible to manufacturers. India's approach by comparison has been subsidy first, ecosystem later. Instead of building foundational infrastructure, we throw incentives at the final product stage and then withdraw support before upstream capabilities can take root. So investors take note. This has direct consequences for your portfolio. If you're betting on manufacturing stocks in electronics, auto, defense, or energy, you need to understand whether their growth is driven by underlying competitiveness or temporary government support. A company that shows great top line growth under a PLI scheme may struggle the moment incentives expire, unless it has built genuine supply chain depth and cost efficiency. You need to dig deeper. What is the local value add? How much import dependence remains? Is the company export ready? Because without structural strength, policy dependent sectors can collapse as fast as they grew. This also matters if you're planning a career in finance. Now, if you want to become an investment advisor or research analyst, someone who makes real decisions for clients or capital, you need to understand not just balance sheets but policy arcs. You need to see where government support is credible, where it is fading, and how that reshapes entire sector. We help people do exactly that. Our RIA and RA courses don't just train you for certification, they teach you how to think clearly about markets, policy, and business models. If you're serious about your future in finance, check them out. Link is in the description. Now let's be clear, India still has time. The ambition is not the problem, but the execution is. If India can build institutions with teeth, align incentives with infrastructure, and stick to a 20-year plan, we can absolutely become a manufacturing power. But it'll take discipline and humility, not slogans but systems. Until then, policy risk will remain the biggest invisible variable in every Indian investing thesis. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more and let me tell in comments what do you think it'll take for India to finally play the long game. Thank you.